When Justice Scalia passed away suddenly last February, I made a promise to the American people. If I were elected president, I would find the very best judge in the country for the Supreme Court.
President Trump just moments ago in the East Room of the White House revealing Judge Neil Gorsuch is his pick for the Supreme Court. President Trump saying, "I am a man of my word," saying many voters told him this was their singular issue, the most important issue, the future direction of the Supreme Court.
In the East Room tonight, President Trump.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Enjoying the primetime spotlight as he announced his Supreme Court pick, Judge Neil Gorsuch.
So was that a surprise? Was it? Judge Gorsuch has outstanding legal skills, a brilliant mind, tremendous discipline, and has earned bipartisan support. When he was nominated to the 10th Circuit Court of Appeals, he was confirmed by the Senate unanimously. Also, that's unanimous. Can you believe that nowadays with what's going on?
Yeah. Judge Gorsuch stepping forward, speaking of the honor of the moment.
Standing here in a house of history and acutely aware of my own imperfections, I pledge that if I am confirmed, I will do all my powers permit to be a faithful servant of the Constitution and laws of this great country. A judge who likes every outcome he reaches is very likely a bad judge, stretching for results he prefers rather than those the law demands. I am so thankful tonight for my family, my friends, and my faith.
Gorsuch, 49, a federal appeals court judge in Denver with sterling credentials, Harvard Law, Oxford University, known as a fine writer and a staunch conservative in the mold of Justice Scalia.
Not only are we looking at the writings of the nominee, and I studied them closely, but he is said to be among the finest and most brilliant, oftentimes the writings of any judge for a long, long time. I studied every aspect of his life. He could have had any job at any law firm for any amount of money. But what he wanted to do with his career was to be a judge, to write decisions, and to make an impact by upholding our laws and our Constitution.
My next guest was in the East Room as the president announced his choice for Supreme Court. President of the Family Research Council, one of the country's leading evangelical conservatives, Tony Perkins. Tony, great to have you with us.
Good evening, Lou.
I'm going to just take a wild stab at it. You're pleased? How pleased are you?
Look, I think this is I'm very pleased. I think the president has done exactly what he said he was going to do on the campaign trail. He was going to find a judge that believes that a judge's role is to interpret the law, not create the law. This was one of the top issues that evangelicals looked to when they voted for Donald Trump. This really became a policy election in which people looked at the policies. Top among those policies was how the president was going to pursue judicial nominees. He said he was going to pick pro-life judges that were strict constructionists, and that's what we appear to have in Judge Gorsuch. So I think evangelicals are going to be very pleased.
Despite his strong background, the resistance is already mobilizing on Capitol Hill, and so is the resistance to the resistance.
President Trump's first Supreme Court nominee, Neil Gorsuch, received strong conservative praise.
President Trump promised the American people if he was elected, he would nominate a principled constitutionalist to replace Justice Scalia. And tonight, President Trump kept his word.
Neil Gorsuch is one of the most qualified people to ever be picked to serve on the Supreme Court, and I dare any Democrat to make the argument he's not qualified.
Democrats like Oregon Senator Ron Wyden quickly attacked, saying, quote, "No senator who believes that individual rights are reserved to the people and not the government can support this nomination." While Senate Democratic leader Chuck Schumer said, quote, "The burden is on Judge Neil Gorsuch to prove himself to be within the legal mainstream." The timing of the announcement comes on a day when Senate Finance Democrats boycotted a hearing to vote on the nominations of the next Treasury and Health and Human Services secretaries. And Democrats on the Judiciary Committee forced a delay on voting on Senator Jeff Sessions to be the next Attorney General. Oregon Democrat Senator Jeff Merkley has signaled he's ready to fight, telling supporters this Supreme Court seat was stolen from President Obama since Judge Merrick Garland never got a vote, and said he won't be, quote, complicit in this theft.
According to the Associated Press, former President Barack Obama's team is speaking out against Donald Trump. Obama's UN ambassador Samantha Power tweeted the day Trump was inaugurated, "Raise your hand if you're ready to defend everything we have built together these last 8 years, at home and abroad." A week later, Obama's national security advisor, Susan Rice, called Trump's restructuring of the National Security Council stone-cold crazy. However, it was Sally Yates, Obama's Deputy Attorney General, who spoke the loudest, directing the Justice Department to stop defending Trump's immigration order in court. Yates was swiftly removed from her position as acting Attorney General.
One of the supporters of the nationwide anti-Trump protests is billionaire investor and philanthropist George Soros, who's well known for his charities around the globe, of course. Soros backed at least 50 groups involved in a mass women's march against Donald Trump's inauguration earlier this month. That event drew tens of thousands of protesters across the US alone.
A mega fortune and a knack for success. George Soros, a man who's not used to losing. But can he take that kind of hit at 86? Well, the multi-billionaire has already had to face it on the home front when Hillary lost and Donald won. He funded her and loathed him. November 8th, boom.
What we have here is an unexpected mega setback for George Soros. He's in deep trouble.
Mr. Soros was born in Hungary. His life was marked by the mission outside America, philanthropy in his homeland and to the east of it. In other words, pushing democracy in what used to be the communist bloc. Watch out for 3 capital letters: NGO. Well, it looks like Trump's win emboldened the Europeans here and there to de-Soros themselves. In Hungary, the vice president of the ruling party is already promising to use all the tools at his disposal to sweep out NGOs funded by the globalist billionaire. This is a Soros-backed newspaper in Poland. The government's refusing to talk to its reporters or advertise in it. Oops. Or on a more grassroots level, activists in Macedonia. Yeah, there's been an attempt at regime change there lately. Activists in Macedonia have launched Stop Operation Soros, SOS.
Soros has been active in Macedonia for about 20-25 years. In the last 2 years, we've seen an escalation of their activities, which has forced us to take a louder, stronger action because it's openly political and it's destabilizing the country.
There's more. No kidding. George Soros is even accused of putting the right man on the throne in the Vatican. Not exactly the communist bloc. Catholics have written to Donald Trump. Investigate and sort it out. For real. The gloves are off.
President Donald Trump sat down with heads of major pharmaceutical companies Tuesday, and he brought his campaign talking points with him.
We have to get lower prices. We have to get even better innovation. And I want you to move your companies back to the United States.
Trump has latched on to the bipartisan push against high drug prices, promising to improve price negotiation and competition in the drug industry.
Very much, everybody, for being here. We appreciate it. There seems to be quite a bit of interest from the press, but there always is. And I think you know most of my team. And you folks have done a terrific job over the years, but we have to get prices down for a lot of reasons. We have no choice. For Medicare, for Medicaid, we have to get the prices way down, so that's what we're going to be talking about. We're also going to be streamlining the process so that from your standpoint, when you have a drug, you can actually get it approved if it works instead of waiting for many, many years.
The UN Security Council is convening for an urgent session today as the Israeli government is voicing alarm over Iran's brazen test firing of a ballistic missile on January 29th. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is extremely concerned over Tehran's show of force and has announced his hope that this flagrant breach of Security Council Resolution 2231 will push U.S. President Donald Trump into renewing sanctions against the Islamic Republic. That resolution was put in place as part of the 2015 nuclear deal, calling on Iran to end all activity related to ballistic missiles designed to be capable of delivering nuclear weapons. Today's emergency consultations in the UN were requested by the United States after Israel's UN ambassador called for immediate action in response to the Iranian aggression he says endanger not only Israel but the entire Middle East.
Prime Minister Netanyahu is set to meet with President Trump on February 15th in Washington, D.C. The announcement comes yesterday from the White House. In receiving the news, Netanyahu released a statement in which he showed his appreciation for the kind invitation and warm words about Israel. Netanyahu continued by saying that, quote, "I look forward to discussing with him the areas of cooperation between us that are so vital to the security and well-being of our two countries," end quote. White House Press Secretary Sean Spicer, when announcing the meeting, echoed such sentiments, saying, quote, "Our relationship with the only democracy in the Middle East is crucial to the security of both our nations, and the President looks forward to discussing continuous strategic, technological, military, and intelligence cooperation with the Prime Minister."
I think President Trump has a very high regard for Israel. I think he sees Israel as a critical part of his effort to defeat radical Islamic terrorism. I think he sees Israel as a resource, not just an ally, but a resource. And I know he's surrounded by a group of advisors who have similar views. So I think we can make the friendship even stronger than it was.
Chief among the expected topics of discussion will of course be the JCPOA P5+1 Iranian nuclear agreement that both President Trump and Prime Minister Netanyahu have called disastrous. The peace process with the Palestinians, as well as the potential for moving the United States Embassy in Tel Aviv to Jerusalem, are also supposedly on the list. Thousands of rockets are expected to hit Israel during the next war, according to the IDF Homefront Command. A senior army officer said recently that the ability of Hezbollah to develop and acquire rockets and highly accurate missiles is the most significant threat, with at least 120,000 rockets aimed at Israel. While most have a range of just 45 kilometers, many of them are able to strike anywhere in the Jewish state. Hezbollah is believed to have 10 times as many rockets as it had before the Second Lebanon War in 2006. In that war, there were approximately 200 rockets fired at Israel in one day. The IDF has said that if war breaks out now, it expects to be bombarded with over 1,000 rockets in the course of a single day.
3 Italians have been arrested on suspicion of running an arms trafficking ring. The trio are accused of smuggling military helicopters and surface-to-air missiles to Libya and Iran between 2011 and 2015 in violation of international embargoes. Police said the equipment was manufactured in the ex-Soviet bloc and shipped through third countries, including Ukraine and Tunisia.
Ukrainian government forces and pro-Russian militias have clashed for a third straight day in the eastern parts of the country.
Fighting between the Ukrainian government and Russian-backed rebels is picking back up. Ukrainian President Petro Poroshenko had to cut short a meeting with German Chancellor Angela Merkel after heavy artillery shells fell on one of the contested cities in Ukraine's industrialized eastern area. Both sides have traded blame for the increased fighting, which has left 17,000 civilians without heat, water, or electricity. Close to 10,000 people have died since the conflict began in April 2014.
The German army says it is sending about 200 vehicles, including 30 tanks, to Lithuania by train, along with 450 troops. NATO says the move is to send a signal to Russia and to reassure its Eastern European partners following Russia's annexation of Crimea in 2014. Moscow views this step as a threat to its national security and an act of aggression. This comes as more fighting broke out in eastern Ukraine in recent days. The Kremlin on Tuesday accused Ukraine of launching an attack on pro-Russian rebels. Moscow says it is concerned by the incident, which it said undermined efforts to implement the Minsk peace accords.
It's not a YouTube video from the Syrian civil war. This is Poland, and these are America's heaviest land warriors. The Abrams battle tanks are firing live ammunition in joint exercises at the Karliki range close to Żagań. A U.S. armored brigade from the state of Colorado is taking part in the training, 3,500 strong. They are in Poland to deter a possible threat from Russia and support their NATO allies.
I mean, the biggest reason we're here is really just to form a better bond between us and our NATO alliance. And I think that we're doing that already within the first, few weeks, month and a half that we've been here. And it's come along nicely.
Nations in the region are seeking reassurance in the face of Russian activity.
We're aware of what other countries have, but we haven't really focused on any one nation as a threat. So it's good to have awareness of what other people have.
And it is about being combat ready. That's what these soldiers are polishing here together with their Polish counterparts. Ironically, some 30 years ago, Polish tanks were training together with Soviet tanks to repel possible attack from the US and the West. Today the tables are turned. 3 decades after, Polish troops are training in this same training ground together with US troops in order to try to repel possible threat from the East. Many of these soldiers are part of the biggest US deployment in Europe since the end of the Cold War.
Well, we're excited. In the next week, we'll begin moving our soldiers and our personnel down to Romania and Bulgaria. So we'll be partnering with the Romanian and Bulgarian armies, and it's a great chance over the next 9 months to be able to train alongside them and just develop that capacity and trust.
Equipment has been secured on the train, including tan-colored Humvees used during the Iraq and Afghanistan conflicts. Green paint is already on the way, so vehicles can blend into the European operations. But at this moment, the US and NATO maneuvers are very much visible and out in the open.
US strategic military assets will be deployed to the Korean Peninsula sometime this month for the first time since the Trump administration took office. The U.S. Pacific Command says 12 F-16 fighter jets and 200 U.S. military personnel will be deployed at Osan Air Base, located some 60 kilometers south of Seoul. They'll be working with the South Korean Air Force for 6 to 9 months to monitor possible North Korean provocations. While North Korea's escalating nuclear threats continue to be a concern for Seoul and Washington, Lee Sun-jin, the chairman of South Korea's Joint Chiefs of Staff, requested that goals set during the first South Korea-U.S. Joint Defense Cooperation talks in December be implemented during his telephone talks with his U.S. counterpart, General Joseph Dunford.
And finally tonight, the Factor Tip of the day, another example of political correctness ruining the planet. In Great Britain, the government-run National Health Service has been told to stop calling pregnant women expectant mothers. Why? Because some biological women who identify as men may be offended by the term mother. I got a term that includes mother. Nope, that would get me fired. That is insane. Next time I go to London, I'm going to ask all the pregnant women I see, are you an expectant mother? I hope I'm arrested. Factor Tip of the day, fight the madness.
Meanwhile, overseas, Taiwan appears to be moving closer to allowing same-sex marriage. The tiny island nation would be the first in Asia to, in fact, allow it. Our Adriana Diaz is in Taipei, Taiwan, with a closer look then at what is driving this historic movement.
While same-sex marriage has made progress in the West, here in the East, in Asia, it's not legal anywhere. In fact, homosexuality is a criminal offense in some countries. But here in more liberal Taiwan, the active gay community has pushed for same-sex marriage bills that are now under consideration. Taiwan's already known around Asia for its acceptance of gays and lesbians. It hosts Asia's largest pride parade. 80,000 attended this year's celebration. This temple was founded as a refuge for gays and lesbians, where at least 20 people a day come and pray for love. Its very existence is a symbol of Taiwan's open society. That openness was on display last month on Human Rights Day, when supporters flooded the streets outside the presidential office building. At night, the building was even lit in rainbow colors. The president inside has also spoken out in support.
President Trump will uphold the Obama administration's LGBTQ workplace protections, the first government protections for federal workers based on gender identity. On Tuesday, January 31st, the White House said Trump, quote, continues to be respectful and supportive of LGBTQ rights, just as he was throughout the election. Activists expressed concern that Trump would rescind the order based on his chosen cabinet of officials who've tried to block or roll back LGBTQ protections in the past. The announcement follows worldwide protests over Trump's executive order temporarily banning nationals from 7 predominantly Muslim countries from entering the U.S.
Austria may soon ban Islamic full-face veils in public places as part of a so-called integration law. The ban applies to the burqa and the niqab, which are veils worn by Muslim women that cover the whole face or only expose the eyes. The measures have to be voted on by Parliament before they're approved, but the ruling coalition's agenda was set Monday, January 30th. In a 35-page statement, the coalition wrote, quote, "We believe in an open society that is also based on open communication. Full-body veils in public spaces stand against that and will therefore be prohibited." The integration law would also require migrants to attend German language classes and value courses. Those who don't attend would have their social benefits cut. The statement goes on to say, quote, "Those who are not prepared to accept Enlightenment values will have to leave our country and society." The bill will be debated in Austrian Parliament this week.
Look at this amazing cloud formation in Mexico. People are calling this the hand of God.
This man's face lit up brighter than the color of his brand new jacket at the kindness of 3 teenagers.
Once we gave him that jacket, man, it was an awesome experience. What really got me kind of emotional was whenever he said, I never had a Christmas this year. I didn't get Christmas presents. And I said, just think about this as a late Christmas.
19-year-old Ryan Cook was with his 2 friends at a Texas Chick-fil-A when they say they saw a homeless man sitting at a table, counting his change, struggling to find enough for a meal. So they bought him a gift card to Chick-fil-A. Then they went next door to Dick's Sporting Goods and bought him clothes. The store even chipped in $20.
I hope this fits you. Does this fit you?
Then they surprised him with the jacket and recorded his reaction.
It wasn't to basically boast or gain recognition for something that we did, but it was more to inspire others to do the same thing that we did, to lead by example.
You want to try the song?
Ryan believes it may have been the worn Bible on his table that resonated with them. Or maybe it was just their generous hearts.